Start Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hey folks, today's Friday, February 21st, 2026, coming up on Roland Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. I'm here in College Station, Texas, where the State Conference of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is holding their state conference. Earlier today, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett spoke to the brothers here, and I'll also be talking to the gentleman who's going to be leading the effort to mobilize and organize Black men in this state to get out to vote in the midterm, when, of course, the primary on March 3rd, for the general election in November. Also on today's show, the attacks on DEI continue. 45 universities are cutting ties with various organizations of dealing with people of color. One in particular that helps to get African-American PhD students in universities. They are also having ties cut, including the links as well. We'll talk to the president of the PhD project about how they are being impacted by Donald Trump's attack on African Americans. Also in today's show, folks, Donald Trump got a huge loss by the Supreme Court when he declared most of his tariffs are unconstitutional. He is not happy about that, but guess what? He's got to deal with it. We'll talk about that as well. Plus, we continue to focus on the life and legacy of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. We'll be joined today by two historic figures. One, former MLK, first of all, former Atlanta mayor, United Nations ambassador, congressman, and lieutenant to Dr. King, Ambassador Andrew Young. Plus, we'll also talk to Reverend William Barber, of course, Bishop William Barber, with repairs of the breach. So lots to break down, folks. It's time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Hey, folks, I'm coming to you live from College Station, Texas, where the 62nd Annual Texas Council of Alpha Chapters is holding their state convention. Of course, I pledged here at Texas A&M, Palmacron chapter, and so the grad chapter is of course, leading this effort. And so you've got nearly 600 brothers from around the state who are here earlier today. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, she spoke to the brothers here. Of course, the primary, March 3rd, she's facing State Representative James Tallarico. And so those efforts are taking place. And I actually, as you can see, you see my sticker, I'll step in, you see my sticker right here. I actually voted. I flew into Dallas, voted in Dallas County, then drove down to College Station. I'm going to be, of course, speaking Sunday in Houston. And so it's, of course, I'll be all across this state. It's a busy weekend. And so a little bit later in the show, we were talking to the brother who's tasked with trying to organize and mobilize alphas all across Texas. But beyond that, Black voters to make sure that they're casting their vote. In this state, African Americans have the largest number of Black voters in any state in the country. In fact, when you look at minority folks in this state, 60% of Texas people of color, yet 60% of the folks that vote in Texas are white. And so that's what's happening here. So we'll talk about that. Now, one of the things that we have been looking at and dealing with is what we have laid out, and that is the targeting of African Americans, the effort by Donald Trump and MAGA to defund Black America. And so what they have been doing is attacking colleges and universities, forcing them to make massive changes to a variety of things. Again, I'm here in College Station, my alma mater, Texas A&M University, being led by this right-wing governor in Texas, Greg Abbott, and this nutcase right-wing Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. They have been forcing the Board of Regents to do away with race and gender. University of Texas took some action today saying that they want to keep students from having to take what they call controversial classes. That makes no sense whatsoever. But what we're seeing here, some 45, 50 institutions are being cut. We're talking about places where they have programming that's about reaching out and increasing the number of African Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, Asian Americans in colleges and universities. Well, Donald Trump's anti-Black, anti-DEI, anti-minority administration is hitting these folks hard. And so now all of a sudden, these universities are scared to death, so they literally are cutting ties with a variety of organizations. The Washington Post had a story, if y'all have in the control room, pull that story up. The Washington Post had a story laying out these cuts. In California, they literally are cutting ties with a chapter of the Lynx. The Lynx president was quoted as saying, we didn't know anything about this, but the one that also, I saw a tweet before I came live, Clemson is cutting ties with a number of conferences. In fact, I remember I spoke in Clemson, they have actually a conference for men of color. More than likely, that conference goes out the window. So people have to understand what we are seeing is a massive attack by Donald Trump and MAGA against efforts to recruit and retain African Americans. So what have I said they're trying to do by defunding Black America? They're trying to cut off access to colleges and universities. They're trying to cut off access to contracts. They're cutting off access to grants and things along those lines. And so there is a wholesale assault on Black America taking place as we speak, and folk need to wake up and understand what's going on. Joining me right now on the show, folks, is the president of the PhD Project, Alfonso Alexander. Alfonso, glad to have you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. This is it's devastating. Again, I talk about Texas A&M. That was a conference where they were sending some folks, and the whole goal of the conference is to actually recruit minority PhD candidates. Well, Greg Abbott finds out. He orders the president and says to the president, that president has since resigned, if you do not cancel the travel to this, I'm going to fire you. And so what you have right now, Alfonso, are university administrators who are scared to death because what Donald Trump is doing is saying, I'm going to take away your federal funding, your research grants, if you support any of these programming. And so talk about how these ties being cut, how is it affecting your organization, the PhD Project?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Roland. And it's affecting us significantly. We have been a tremendous asset to the academic community by providing access for talented individuals that normally wouldn't necessarily know about how they could get engaged and become PhDs, which then they impact the students that come through, and students of all color benefit from having diverse faculty that they're interacting with. And so what has happened for us specifically is, we had over 200 universities that partnered with us last year prior to the changes that the administration had put in place. And now, it's less than 100 that have partnered with us in that same capacity. Some of them have been forced. Some of them were part of that list of 45 that you referenced earlier, and others because of some of the things and the information that they are having to abide by within their state. That's caused some of those issues too. So we're wrapping up. We're working on other ways to be able to still provide access to young people through faculty who have a diverse level of understanding, diverse mix of individuals, so that they can still impact our country so that we can be better and continue to grow. But it's been very challenging for us from a financial standpoint. A significant financial hit has come our way as a result of this. and we're working through to fight through so that we can continue to provide opportunities.
So for folks who are unaware, so what exactly was the PhD project doing for these students? Were you funding their travel? What was actually happening?
Sure.
And first of all, for folks who don't know, how long have y'all been around?
Sure. So the PhD project has been around since 1994. And what we have done is been able to create a community that includes individuals that were already PhDs mentoring PhD students. PhD students learning and growing and understanding how to be better researchers, how to be better teachers as a part of the process, and how to create that community so that they have a positive impact on students that come through both undergraduate and graduate level programs in business schools. And what we do is provide a forum for those students to get together with those faculty members. We provide access to resources that can help them. You know, one of the challenges and one of the misconceptions that was out there was that we were giving funding to students that fit certain ethnic groups, but not to others. Well, we don't provide funding. We just provide access to information and partnerships that they can then seek opportunities through those. But the influence of the organization has been great in the 30 plus years that we've been around. And that's been what has been a challenge for those who feel like we're helping people who we have traditionally helped and don't think that's necessary.
So here's the question, that is, as a result of this, is this going to, in your estimation, lead to a drop in the number of minority PhD candidates? Or are y'all working to try to find other ways to keep them involved? Because, and this is the thing that I keep trying to explain to people, that what this is this is literally cutting off access to not higher education, but the upper echelon of higher education. So the trickle-down impact of this is that the affirmative action decision in colleges and universities, well, listen, if you can wipe out black students and other minority students from these Ivy League institutions and then these other institutions, and you start, and it's so bad that we see that Auburn, black alumni, taking their scholarships out. We're seeing scholarship programs being impacted, fellowships being impacted. And what Donald Trump and MAGA is saying is that, this is hurting white students. Yet when you look at the numbers, it's not even remotely close to see how many white students are getting PhDs on an annual basis. That far exceeds the combination of black, Latino, Asian American, Native American.
It is absolutely, you're absolutely correct. So yes, the numbers will decline, and here's the impact that makes. So there are programs that have been funding research. There are institutions that have been funding research, and research that helps people understand how individuals lead, research that helps people understand how businesses are built in different economies and different markets. And those funds are being cut. And so the research funding is being cut. And so if you have individuals that, let's just say hypothetically, they focused on research where they understood how women leaders lead in comparison to how men leaders lead. Well, now that is deemed as research that could be discriminatory. So the funding could be pulled from that. And then therefore, we now have a gap in learning and understanding how women leaders lead versus how men leaders lead. Now, if you take that and look at from a gender, beyond gender, and look at from an ethnic standpoint, any diversity related programming, many of those things either have already been jeopardized or will be jeopardized by a pullback of funding. And all of that cripples the development of academia. It cripples the opportunities that people develop to understand how to be better. So it attacks the entire system from an education standpoint, and particularly those who don't normally have that access, because now if there's not funding available for them to do research or for them to get scholarships, as you mentioned, minority scholarship programs and other scholarship programs that have been designed to help even the playing field are now being restricted or taken away. And therefore, it just gives the opportunities for those who already have those opportunities to get more, and the ones who have limited opportunities to have less.
Well, and not only that, what they also did is they're trying to change the requirement, if you will, or the classification of people who go to nursing school, to say that's not in the medical field. And then what they're also doing, they've capped what folks can get in terms of financial aid for those postgraduate programs. And so the problem is, if you're a black listen, we know the numbers don't lie. If you're a black student, you're a Latino student, you know, and Native American student, Asian American, you're talking about you don't have access to those dollars. And so now by capping that, folks are like, well, wait a minute. If I don't have the extra $20,000, now I can't get my PhD. And this is what I've been trying to explain to my audience since the inauguration of Trump last year, that what we are seeing, how I frame this, is a massive effort with Project 2025 to defund Black America, that they are attacking multiple institutions, and that is having a profoundly negative impact on our people.
Well, absolutely. There's an organization that you and I both are affiliated, and you know, part of what we do is try to get to know the best of one another. We, through some scholarship funding, have provided hardship scholarship dollars for universities to distribute to students that are in need. We've had 2 universities to tell us that they can't accept those funds because of who those funds have been traditionally going to. So they can't even help students that are in hardship through funding from us as an organization now. So it doesn't just impact what we see and what's overt in terms of some of these things where you have programs that are going away, but there are students who maybe fell on hard times because they had a car that needed repair and could not afford books or could not afford to pay their bill for the rest of that semester. It impacts the academic system overall.
Well, first of all, you're talking about Sigma Pi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the Boulay. I ain't got a problem actually saying it. But let me tell you, this is what Tom Joyner did. Let me tell you what Tom Joyner did. When Tom Joyner had the Tom Joyner, and this is what I think our black nonprofits are going to have to do as well. When Tom Joyner's his foundation, he did not send the money to the schools. He sent the money to the students. And I think what's going to happen is that with these organizations are going to say, well, you can no longer have your black alumni scholarship through the Alumni Association. That's where we say, okay, fine. We're going to keep our money. Then we're going to send the word out. If you're a student, if you're an African-American student, you've got a hardship, you let us know, and then we're going to do it that way. Alfonso, what I have been saying all across this country is that this is a moment where African-Americans, to be perfectly honest, are going to have to return to how we moved and flowed during Jim Crow, where we are frankly insulating ourselves, where we are pooling our resources. And I'm like, look, he's going to be there 3 more years. The attacks on black people are going to continue. And so what we have to be doing right now is saying, okay, since y'all are putting up these barriers, we are going to find another way to ensure that our black students are going to be funded and taken care of, and they're not going to be fall by the wayside because of this white nationalist agenda that's coming out of the White House.
We have to make sure that we create opportunities for everybody who deserves it, like our people, to be able to have the academic success, the opportunities that they deserve. And you and I both know that you can go to any inner city in the country and see talented young people that just need to be inspired and need an opportunity. And we've got to figure out, to the point that you made, how we work together to be able to create these opportunities and continue to create these opportunities at the lowest level of academia, so K through 12, all the way up to the PhDs. Because if we don't have the PhDs teaching, and that's why I can appreciate many of the panelists that you bring on, they help to bring knowledge in spaces that people aren't able to get them in academia right now. And with all of what you mentioned that's happening in Texas and other places where they're trying to remove certain classes and certain opportunities for people to know and understand how to better integrate or to better live on their own academically, then we have to fill those gaps. And to your point, the way we fill those gaps is we bond together and work together to figure out new ways to be able to create opportunities for success. And that's part of what we're trying to do now with the PhD project. We realize that we have to create new programs that are self-funding. Yep. We have to also call upon the alumni who have come through our programs to help us with funding to replace the funding that the universities had typically given us as part of the partnerships that they aren't able to do at this point.
Absolutely. Give folks the website if they want to be of assistance to the PhD project.
Sure. It's www.phdproject.org. And we have an area there where you can join what we call the Vanguard Society. And the Vanguard Society is just people that are interested in helping to propel academia through the programs that we offer. Again, that's phdproject.org. The Vanguard Society has a specific page there, and you can join us and really be engaged in supporting us. Even if you're not a person in academia, but you're a person that's interested in educational access for all, that's what we're trying to protect and build and grow upon.
All right then. Alfonso Alexander, I appreciate it, bro. Thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you. And I'm glad that all of that other black and gold left from behind you, because the purple and gold is really what we like the best.
Hey. No, first of all, let's be clear. It's alphas all around here. So, we outnumber y'all omegas at any time except in prison.
Oh, no, that's not right, man.
See,
things just got better in 1911. They started in 06, but in 11 they got better.
You opened that door.
Thank you for having me.
You opened that door. I was not trying to go there, but I closed that door.
Hey, you got the mic last, so I'm going to quit while I can.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm not rocking Alpha shirt today because tomorrow is the 61st anniversary of the assassination of Malcolm X, and his daughter Ilyasa Shabazz sent me this shirt in their partnership with Active Black. That's the only reason you ain't seen me dripping in black and old gold. And don't remember,
hey,
don't forget, y'all
Lanny
took
is
one
of my
colors.
favorite. Lanny is one of my favorite people in the world, man. So thanks for supporting him. And you guys have a great convention. And sometimes you got to give some love where it's due.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Let's bring in my panel. Matt Manning, civil rights attorney out of Corpus Christi, Texas. Winkuni Siant, she's the co-founder of Politicking out of D.C. Michael Imhotep hosts African History Network show out of Detroit. Glad to have all three of you here. Winkuni, I want to start with you. Again, I'm trying to explain to people, this is a direct attack on Black America, and people need to stop playing around and wake up to see what is going on by Donald Trump and MAGA. This is a white nationalist administration that does not want to see black folks succeed.
The number one way that you address and dismember a black community is to start with their educational system, Roland. This is why they wouldn't let black people read back when we were enslaved peoples. And so now they're doing the similar thing by trying to dismember organizations like the PhD Project, by severing them, by cutting their funding, by making universities scared to partner with them. My question, Roland, would be, why aren't we looking into organizations like Turning Point USA that are all over college campuses throughout this nation? Is it because they're not racially motivated? Is that what's coming down from this administration's pipeline? It's really frustrating to see that organizations like the PhD Project are being unfairly and unjustly targeted simply on the behest of race, when we see organizations like the PhD Project, the Links, the Boulay, doing things to uplift the African-American community, but not only the African-American community. I think what the Links president said was really, really fair in saying is that we know that the Links are doing things nationwide to help people all different races, all different socioeconomic statuses. And so it's really unfair targeting.
Look, Matt, I mean, I've got some folks who are concerned that they're going to come after black Greek-led organizations. And here's the deal. Alpha was integrated before the armed services was. I mean, and so but people have to realize that, again, there's a bullseye on the target of black people and all minorities. And what they want to drive is a white agenda, and that's what this is all about, by trying to cut off access to colleges and universities.
I think you're exactly right. And the two things I'll add to that is, first, colleges, as I've said on this show many times, colleges and universities are supposed to be places where in society we think it is sacred for diverging opinions, diverging positions to be bandied about, to be debated. That's the whole reason you go to college, not only to learn, but to further cement your thought process and some of your own beliefs. So the idea that that's being attacked as an institution, if you will, across the board in the country is really just a really terrible thing for the country, not only from a scholarship standpoint, but from the idea of culturally, we need to have these places where we think it's sacred not only to learn, but to really fight about and grapple with ideas. But the second thing that really sticks me as stupid in this instance is, as the United States of America sees greater competition from China, India, and all these other countries around the world, it just makes sense to do the opposite. It makes sense to get as many people as possible into the highest levels of academia and the highest levels of learning, so that translates to American progress as it relates to science and mathematics and all the other things around the world where we see ourselves losing significant ground. So even if you take this from a nationalist standpoint, being proud of America and wanting America to be advanced, this is directly counter to that idea, because it's instead about the white agenda, as you've mentioned. But to me, it makes no sense if the whole idea is trying to make America as strong as possible.
Yeah, but they don't care, Michael, because they believe that white people are losing opportunities, which we all know is a lie. And so that's why they're targeting black people and people of color.
Absolutely. And Roland, I was just about to go back to that article from April 1st, 2024 from Axios.com that predicted what would happen. It's called Trump Allies Plot Anti-Racism Protections for White People. And it talks about what would happen in the second Trump administration. And it said allies of Trump want to dramatically change the government's interpretation of civil rights era laws to focus on anti-white racism rather than discrimination against people of color. And when you read the information coming from the Department of Justice, their rationale, in the Associated Press as an article on this, the Department of Education cites Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which bars discrimination on the basis of color, race, or national origin. So Linda McMahon is saying that the PhD project is in violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. At the same time, when Donald Trump at the inauguration, January 20th, 2025, said they want to fulfill Dr. King's legacy, fulfill his dream. Remember that? Okay. And now they're destroying everything that Dr. King and Hosea Williams and Jesse Jackson and others fought for. So this is what we were warning black people about. Now, my question is, where are all the black people who say do for self? Where are your programs to help offset this?
Yeah, well, first of all, they're using those various civil rights laws against us. I think Wayne Coon is right. We need to be going after those folks, suing them as well. We need to understand what their entire game plan is. Folks, hold tight 1 second. We're going to go to a quick break. We come back. We're going to talk about what's happening here in Texas. Huge primary taking place March 3rd, U.S. Senate races, other races as well. And so how important is the black turnout, but specifically the black male turnout? We'll talk with the brother who's leading the effort for Alpha Phi Alpha in this state regarding that later in the show. John Boyd will join us talking about Trump's tariffs. Farmers have been really screwed by that. They got a huge assist today from the United States Supreme Court. We're going to explain all of that right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black Star Network, coming to you live from College Station, Texas, the 62nd Annual Texas Council of Alpha Chapters. I'll be right back.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
What's up? It's Talib Kweli. I'm CEO. This is the Black Star Network.
Hey, folks, welcome back to Roland Unfiltered. And so, as you see, I am wearing this Malcolm X shirt. So tomorrow, February 21st, is the 61st anniversary of the assassination of Malcolm X at the Audubon Ballroom. I was texting his daughter, Ilyasa Shabazz, and I said, hey, I wanted to wear something for your father. And so they have a partnership, as you can see right here, with the folks at Actively Black. And so you see right here, and so she sent me a couple of great items. And so first and foremost, let's pull up the graphic. She is going to be it's going to be a program tomorrow taking place at what is used to be the Audubon Ballroom, where they're going to be, of course, commemorating that event. So if y'all could show that, that'll be great. And so if you go to the Eventbrite, you will see it right there. And so the 61st annual commemoration of El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. So that's taking place again tomorrow. Now, show the website if y'all want. Listen, a lot of y'all buying bootleg stuff. If you're going to buy Malcolm X gear, buy it from their site, because the funds are supporting that location and the programming they have there as well. So if y'all have the website, so please, this is the Actively Black website. So they have a number of, so the partnership with the Shabazz family, and so the proceeds, they get a portion of that. So please, if you're going to wear Malcolm X gear, please support them in doing that. Folks, as I said, I'm here in College Station, Texas. As you see, I landed earlier. I'm still registered to vote in Dallas County. So I flew to Dallas, voted, and then drove here to College Station, where my frat, the Alphas, are meeting for their state conference. Nearly 600 brothers are here. You got regional conferences that are coming up as well this year. And listen, we're in an election. We're in the election year, and I've been making a point that what we have to understand is that we have to be maximizing our power, especially in a state like Texas. Texas has more eligible black voters than any state in the country, around 4.5 million. The problem is, when you look at turnout, we're not maximizing our numbers. Y'all have heard me say numerous times that we should be trying to hit a 70% minimum threshold. And so when we are voting at 48, 50, 52%, then what then happens is we're not maximizing our vote. The reality is this: if we're voting here and white folks are voting here, also we take it up, we actually win. In this state, Black, Latino, Asian American, Native Americans comprise 60% of Texas. Yet of the people who actually vote, 60% white. That's why Republicans have controlled Texas for the last 30 years. They control all statewide offices because we're not maximizing our vote. Earlier today, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who's running for the United States Senate, she actually came to the conference and spoke. And I believe also Representative of James Tellerico spoke as well. My next guest, step on over. Jesua Robo Inabakari, Deputy Executive Director of Texas Council of Alpha Chapters, joins me right now. And so, so walk us through, what are the brothers doing to really, first and foremost, make sure that every Alpha in the state is registered, is going to vote, but how are we utilizing Alpha's capacity? Because what I have been saying for years is that if you look at the number of D9 chapters in every single state, we are significant, but we're not using that power appropriately. Let me just make sure your microphone is on here. I don't think I turned it on. And so I just think that a big issue for me is that we talk about GOTV efforts and things along those lines, but we can actually be doing more.
So right now we're at an inflection point in our country. And an inflection point means that some significant change may happen, not that it will happen. And so right now the zone is being flooded. As a black person, you're probably overwhelmed with all of the things that are being attacked. Every piece of black culture, black society, black identity is being attacked by this white nationalist government.
There's a slide this way right here. Keep going, keep going.
And so what we have to do is we have to, one, you're right, make sure that every brother is voting. So we have to make sure that every brother is knowledgeable of the issues. Next, we have to go out into our community and help those in our community understand where their pain point is on the ballot.
Right.
Because if we can tie their pain to an elected official that's causing it and a candidate that can relieve it, then we can then motivate them to go out and vote.
Well, look, when I voted today, there were several constitutional amendments that were on the ballot. One of them talked about Medicaid for all. Another talked about an affordable living. And so those are on the ballot. Typically, again, people ignore propositions. But this is how we can change that. And what I have been saying is that it's not just a question of, okay, hey, we hope folks turn out. It's also how we actually do it. And I think what Alpha and other D9 chapters can do is go get the voter data and break it down by precinct to say, okay, how many people are eligible in this precinct, how many people voted in this precinct, and now we can now go door to door in this area versus trying to do what I think are a waste of time, larger GOTV efforts where you're not actually reaching people.
That's what we're doing in Fort Worth. We're actually taking that voter data and we're doing maybe once or twice a month. We're going and we're knocking on doors and we're doing door hangers. And that's something that we're trying to talk to other chapters to get them to do because of the fact that if you're looking at the numbers and you're seeing those who haven't voted that could vote, that's low-hanging fruit there.
Right.
And like you said, right now, all we have to do, we can get our voting up to 70%. You can see dramatic change in the state of Texas.
Now, when you talk about trying to get the other chapters, are y'all establishing a template and saying, hey, this is already tried and true, follow these 6-8 steps. You don't have to sit here and recreate the wheel. Follow these 6-8 steps. This is how you do it. You implement it. Then you're going to see the results.
Yes, we have a statewide committee that's talking about best practices and is doing things such as that so that we can align our chapters so that when we are trying to approach this voter turnout, right now, because of the fact that it's game time, there's no time to recreate the wheel. We have to go with what already works, and so that's what we're doing.
You said in Fort Worth, first of all, every black organization should be locked and loaded in Fort Worth. You've got a racist DA there who's been trying to put Crystal Mason in jail, in prison for the last 9 years. That man's on the ballot. You've got a racist county judge who led the effort to block Elisa Simmons. They gerrymandered her district. She's now running against him. And so this is one of those moments where every you've had black folks run for mayor of the positions. This is where, again, black organizations must be saying, we're going to hit every brother and sister in Fort Worth to take those folks out because they are a detriment to black folks in Tarrant County.
I was in Alicia Simmons' district until I got gerrymandered out. So I'm a victim of it myself. So you're definitely correct. And the thing is that there are enough votes right now in Tarrant County for Alicia Simmons to win. The thing is that we have to get those voters out.
Yep.
Black people alone, there are enough votes. And so the thing is that we just have to focus. This is not the time to get distracted. This is not the time to get sidetracked with different squabbles. We got to focus on a unified mission right now.
Right, and also, again, we look statewide, East Texas, rich in votes, but again, not always organized and mobilized. And so this is a massive effort. Obviously, it's a huge state, 254 counties. But what I always say, we have to maximize where our people are. And when you look at black folks in Texas, you really are talking about Harris County, Dallas County, Travis County, Tarrant County, East Texas. That's where we are now. We're in other parts as well. You talk about Longview and all other parts of the state, but if we lock in low in those places, we can actually see the change. So hopefully we'll see a lot of brothers out there in the black and gold. And the point I keep saying to your point about the community, one of the reasons people complain about D9 because they don't that we are so insular in our own business. If we're out there knocking on doors, if we're doing block walks, and people are seeing us out there doing that, then they probably have a different understanding of what we do.
Exactly.
All right,
exactly.
I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks a bunch.
Appreciate you.
Folks, we'll go to a quick break. We come back, we'll chat with John Boyd, President of the National Black Farmers Association, about today's huge Supreme Court decision regarding Donald Trump's tariffs. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Don't forget to support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. That's $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. If you want to support the work that we do, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen. Use this QR code for contributions. That's for credit cards as well. Check some money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037. That's 0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle. Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
I'm Brittany Noble, Midwest-born, HBCU educated with experience in newsrooms across the country. Well, I've teamed up with Roland Martin to bring to you The Breakdown. This isn't just news. It's our stories, our voice, our community. Join me for The Breakdown, Monday through Friday at midday, only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Swing Cash, Basketball Hall of Famer, and you're watching Black Star Network.
Folks, big loss for Donald Trump today at the Supreme Court. In a 6-3 decision, they declared that his use of tariffs, in case nearly all of them, is unconstitutional, that Congress has the authorization when it comes to those tariffs. He was a little hot, upset, because this has been the cornerstone of his economic policy. He's been, frankly, schizophrenic. It's had a negative impact on the economy. If you look at in the final quarter of 2025, the GDP only grew at 1.4%. The economy is expected to be 3%. But the folks who also are happy with this here are a number of companies that rely on trade with partners across the country, but also American farmers. John Boyd is president of the National Black Farmers Association. He joins us right now. And John, listen, you deal with this directly. Farmers have gotten screwed because Donald Trump's tariffs have been schizophrenic. They've been crazy, how he's been penalizing and targeting a number of countries. And so this decision is going to have a positive impact. Now, granted, he already has come out and say he's going to use some other law, but trust me, they're going to follow suit there. But for you, you say this is great news.
Roland, guess what, brother? I've been on your show at least 5 times talking about the tariffs. The president lost and I won, Roland. I won by 6-3. And I've talked on your show before about how the tariffs are illegal. Illegal. And for the first time, I think, in my life, the Supreme Court really said, you know, John Boyd is right on this one. The president tariffs have put America's farmers out of business, put us into bankruptcy, foreclosure. We have farmers that are committing suicide. And the names that this president was calling the Supreme Court justices, you know, and we haven't always agreed with their decision, but the names that he called the Supreme Court justices from the White House. And then on top of that, Roland, he used the White House today. To me, he violated the Hatch Act. He said, vote Republican from the microphone right there in the White House. So the president is deplorable in my standpoint of what he's doing. But for the day, for a few minutes, we won and he lost.
Well, first of all, they always violate the Hatch Act. They don't give a damn about violating the law because they do whatever the hell they want to do. So that's no shock right there. But again, I saw one story that said last year, 15,000 farms shut down, the highest number in years. And listen, a lot of these farmers, they voted for Trump. they're getting screwed by this same fool. And so I don't understand. I don't understand why these farmers, these white farmers, I don't understand why they ain't marching on Washington, D.C. I mean, this man's economic policies are destroying family farms, destroying jobs, leading to suicides and bankruptcies. And the reality is they still support this idiot.
And Roland, they voted for him 3 times, man. They voted for him 3 times. And guess what? The only farmer I saw on the 24-hour news cycle was me. I haven't seen any white farmers who are on the brink of losing their farms speak out and say, you know what, the Supreme Court made the right decision. They're still supporting this president. They're going down supporting this president. And the last time we was on the show, I mentioned to you how they kind of disinvited me to the White House meeting. All this stuff, didn't have a black farmer at the table, didn't have a black farmer in the audience. So today is great news for me that this president got up with some bad news. He's been giving us bad news for a whole year, Roland, but today he got some bad news. And you can see from his emotion from the White House that he was angry. He was angry. And these 10% proposed tariffs that he has, it can only last for 100+ days. So it's just something to try to take away the sting.
150. 150 days. And you talk about not being invited to that meeting. All of those dancing, laughing Negroes, I call the help, who were at the White House for Trump's Black History Month reception, didn't say a damn thing. And so they claim they support black people, but they were real quiet when you were not invited to the table. But that's really how they are. And so we certainly will see what happens when it comes to these tariffs. But certainly this is actually, since he's been there, this is the first time this Supreme Court has went against Donald Trump. He thought he had it locked up. And you're right. He made direct appeals to them, but it was a 6-3 decision. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote for the majority, and it's no shock that non-caring Negro Clarence Thomas, and then you have Samuel Alito and Brett Kavanaugh. They were the 3 votes. They would allow Trump to do what he wants to do, and so it was Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts joining with the 3 liberal/progressive justices, and so certainly good news. And I really hope they rule against him in some other cases. I doubt they're going to rule in our favor in the Louisiana versus Cali case, but I certainly hope it happens.
And
all right, John. As a matter of fact, John, hold up, John. So hold up, John. Since you decided, come on the show, just do understand. I did come back home, so let me go ahead. Let me go. Since you got your black hat on, yes. So I'm here in Texas. So I had to rock my Stetson. So you ain't gonna be the only one coming on this show with a black cowboy hat.
Hey, Roland, you look good, man. You look good. You look good, man. But you know what?
Come on now. This ain't the first. Yep.
You look good, man. This is the first time that the president of the United States got a hard no in this country. This is the first time that the Supreme Court really stood up to him and said no, because the other decisions, they were soft, gave him soft language, and gave him a way out and around stuff. But this time it was a clear no, 6-3, that his tariffs are illegal. That's the word I've been using on your show. They're illegal. And the Supreme Court supported that definition that I've been using. And these tariffs have put America's black farmers out of business, man. And it's hurt white farmers even far more. So this president gets what he deserves on this one. It was a low blow to his whole platform and policy.
Well, it certainly hurts his ego as well. John Boyd, we appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland, for having me, brother. And looking good in that hat, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Let me go to my panel. I'll go to you, Matt. Bottom line is this here. Thank God the Supreme Court finally woke the hell up because they were kissing his ass at every turn when it comes to these rulings. And he needs to understand that he's not a king. And John was right. He was hot. He was meeting with a group of governors. They said his head was going to explode. He was so angry when an aide handed him a note And he goes, does this mean, I guess this mean we lost? And they were like, yes, that's exactly what it means.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I like the way John framed that, too. This is the first time he's gotten a hard no. It's been a long time coming. And he got a hard no from Gorsuch and Roberts, who, in my opinion, have been complicit with a lot of the times that the Supreme Court has allowed him to do things that are either questionably constitutional or blatantly unconstitutional. So it's good that they had this force. It's good that they, made a common sense ruling and showed that the statute did not allow for the interpretation that the government was taking. And I think there are a couple attendant circumstances here, or collateral consequences, if you will, that come out of this. The first is the Republicans who are finally growing some gumption and wanting to step away from Trump, I think, can start to do that more. I saw that Massey and Don Bacon and some other people were rejoicing about this. Now, they're going to say it's just about conservative values, but I think a lot of them are trying to step away, hopefully, and this will allow them to do that. Two, I think this will allow Congress to be a little more strengthened in its legislative policy making, hopefully. And three, I hope it also lets Trump know that the Supreme Court is only going to let him go so far. I hope they start reining that in. And I think it shows that if you are a part of the Trump administration or aligned with them, you're only as valuable to them as long as you're providing them the value that they want. I mean, for the president to call the justices that ruled against him, quote, disgraceful, these are the same people he would be lauding if they let him do what he wanted to do. So that shows it's about him getting his way, not about a true value. And hopefully people start stepping away from that plantation.
Michael, I saw this one Republican Senator, Bernie Moreno, say we should have an up and down vote in the Senate, giving the authority to the Congress. And I saw Republican strategists say, oh, you would be handing the Democrats an absolute gift if that happened.
Yeah, they would. Now, it's important for people to understand the ability to tax and spend belongs to Congress. That's Article 1, Section 9 of the U.S. Constitution. So, and even though Trump said he was going to use the 1974 Trade Act to impose 10% tariffs for 150 days, if he does that, this will drastically help Democrats in the 2026 midterm elections, because personally, I hope Donald Trump shows his entire ass for the next 3 years. That's just me, because I want everybody to look and see this is what you voted for. You got white farmers losing their businesses, committing suicide. You got 22 million people lost the Affordable Care Act health subsidies, things of this nature because of this idiot. But if he doubles down and does this, you're going to have a lot of those Republican senators who say they support him now, who are going to lose their seats, and Republicans are going to take back the House of Representatives. So this is, and it's not just black farmers who've lost businesses, but it's a lot of African-American owned businesses that have gone out of business because of the increase in tariffs, right? And we see black people losing their jobs at the same time. We saw 8.3% unemployment for African Americans, and a lot of that deals with the tariffs. And then we just got the news this week that 2025 was the worst year for hiring since the year 2020. Okay, so this is good news for the rule of law, but we have to stay vigilant. And once again, this is an example of how elections have consequences. Hashtag we tried to tell you.
I get a kick when Cooney out of these idiots trying to spin how amazing and phenomenal this economy is. No, it's not. And tariffs have really wreaked havoc on this economy because Trump has been so ridiculous. I mean, levying tariffs because he didn't like the tone of another country's leader when he was on a phone call with them. This shows how much of an idiot this guy is.
I mean, let's look at Brazil. He hit them with a 40% tariff. He imposed 25% levies on India as punishment for importing Russian oil. I mean, this guy really thinks he's the king of not only the United States, but the entire world. I'm really curious about, what Costco and Crocs and Revlon are saying. They're turning to the courts and they want a refund. They want a refund on the levies that they've paid on these imports because these imports, these tariffs have already been levied, right? People have already shelled out millions and millions of dollars on this. So what happens to the major companies that don't have their money back now, right? And so the United States Treasury would be in complete havoc if all these companies started seeking their refunds. But I think they really need to, because quite honestly, I think now that it's been declared illegal officially by the Supreme Court, there should be some sort of justification for people who've been spending their money on these illegal tariffs. The average household, Roland, if we go from companies to individual households, has lost $1,700 in real income. This is the guy that said he was going to help improve the United States economy? I think not.
Absolutely. Folks, let me ask y'all this here. If you want to talk about how crazy this world is, Donald Trump has a labor secretary who's been accused of sexual relations with staffers. Her husband is now barred from going into the building because he allegedly groped a couple of staffers. Can somebody explain to me why this ain't a big deal? I mean, it's crazy, Michael, to see how mainstream media goes, that's just one of those things in the Trump world. And also this here, the D.C. police have searched the office of Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer as they look at the allegations against her husband. I mean, this entire administration, when you just look at the corrupt nature, and it's all been treated as, man, really no big deal.
Well, you know, Roland, when you got a man who is a 34-time convicted felon who became president after inciting an insurrection in violation of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of 1868, and who was found liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll, I mean, well, yeah, you know, a lot of things were pale in comparison to that. Now, I saw this story from the New York Times, and you know, I forgot. At the same time, his best friend was a convicted pedophile. Okay, so a lot of things were pale in comparison to this. Okay, but I saw the story from the New York Times, and you know, I said, you know, wait, birds of a feather flock together. So you got Kristi Noem allegedly in a relationship with Corey Lewandowski. You've got the labor secretary's husband who's barred from the premises. You've got Donald Trump. Now at the same time, you know, a lot of people thought Obama was going to embarrass America. Look at what you have right here. Donald Trump, I hope he shows his entire ass for the next 3 years.
Well, the reality is nothing's going to happen, Matt. They have openly avowed Nazis and white nationalists and white supremacists and racists serving, so they don't care. Let's see. Groping, having affairs. Donald Trump said that's a day ending in DEI.
Yeah, I like how you said that. That's exactly right. I think Michael hit the nail on the head. I don't have too much to add besides one thing I think is actually interesting is that my understanding is the Inspector General in the Department of Labor has started to look into some of these allegations. And I think that's so important because that's another, you know, to use Michael's term, right? That's why elections have consequences. When you have a president who wants to get rid of inspector generals, you want to get rid of inspectors general because you don't want somebody checking the work that's independent of you. So if this ends up being substantiated as an allegation, it's proof positive as to exactly why you need independent arms of the government that can't always be, you know, subject to the president's will or some other powerful person's will or whim, because what they do is they take away accountability. So if there is some meat on this bone here to these allegations, if the Inspector General is the one that uncovers it, that shows exactly why it's important to have those roles. And I think you're also right. I think this has just kind of become old hat. I mean, on one of the last episodes of this show that I was on, we talked about a potential candidate or person they were trying to nominate to go in front of the United Nations who talks about the Great Replacement Theory. I mean, none of this is surprising at this point. This administration is just going to try to do whatever they want. But hopefully with the Supreme Court's ruling today and some of the changing headwinds, we start to see that they're not able to do that with the impunity they've been able to do it thus far.
Coney?
Yeah, I'd agree with the two previous panelists. I think this is a discussion miscarriage of justice. And I think that I'm really happy to see that they're further investigating Chavez DeRemer's husband. I think obviously sexual assault, sexual misconduct has become normalized in this White House. And I'll dissent a little bit from what Michael said. While I don't want him to continue to show his ass, I fear he's going to. But unfortunately, the sexual assault and that being like a common practice in the White House now, it's a really scary thought. The last thing we want to do is have people think that it's okay to walk around, assaulting and abusing women, and particularly when they're in a position of power. Whether you're directly in a position of power or you're married to an official in a position of power, it's a miscarriage of justice all the way through. Unfortunately, America's not much of an example of that anymore. But I hope that at some point we can straighten up and start to fly this plane right.
Hey, Roland.
Absolutely. Let me think. When Cooney, Michael. Yeah, go ahead. Go.
Oh, I was just going to say, this past weekend, in addition to watching Sinners, I also watched the Becoming documentary, Michelle Obama, and I was just going to say, she talked about how she had to parse every word because every word was weighted and the microscope was on her when she became first lady. And it's just amazing how like spouses of labor secretaries and things like that are not under any type of similar scrutiny.
Well, that's how they roll. All right, Michael, yes. Winnacuney, as well as Matt, I appreciate y'all being on today's show. Thank you so very much. Folks, hold tight 1 second. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, we have Ambassador Andrew Young. Of course, one of Dr. King's closest confidants will share his thoughts and reflections on the passing of his longtime friend and colleague, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. Bishop William Barber, co-founder of Repairs of the Breach, will also join us to share his thoughts on Reverend Jackson. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network. Back in a moment.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
My name is Bill Duke, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, where did you connect with Ambassador Andrew Young to get his thoughts and reflection on the passing of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr.? He passed away on Tuesday, early morning Tuesday, the age of 84. So we'll be talking this hour with Andrew Young as well as Bishop William Barber. But last night, I broke the news that House Speaker Mike Johnson declined the request by Democrats for Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. to lie in honor at the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. Now, keep in mind, there's only 4 times in American history that citizens have lied in honor. Now, an official lies in state, citizens lie in honor. Rosa Parks was the first, Billy Graham was the second, and the 2 cops who died in the aftermath of January 6th, they also got that honor as well. In terms of politicians, black politicians, former Congressman Elijah Cummings was first. Congressman John Lewis was second. Congressman Cummings lied in honor in Statuary Hall. Lewis, they happened during COVID, so they had him on the east steps because he was initially supposed to be in the Capitol Rotunda, but he was in the east steps of the Capitol. So media has been reporting in left and right, but the reality is I broke it last night. I got a source who told me that, and I got it confirmed on Capitol Hill as well. And keep in mind that these Republicans, Donald Trump lowered the flags in this country, lowered to have staff in honor of Charlie Kirk. A lot of people have been commenting on social media, Charlie Kirk did not lie in honor at the U.S. Capitol. But flags were lowered. Trump has made no such declaration. And you have this going on right here. Let me know when we get the panel back. I want to get them to weigh in here. I mean, the reality is, so this is what Speaker Johnson said. They claim they really went back to the old rules that only presidents, the honor of lying in state or lying in honor is only reserved for former presidents who pass away. But the reality is, leadership can change whatever rule they want to. Democrats did that. They made other exceptions, and so those things have happened. But that was the decision that was made. Been a lot of talk, a lot of chatter on social media about how the Republicans are, frankly, not properly acknowledging the contributions of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. But there's no shock to me that they would do this, that they would not honor Reverend Jackson in this way, because he was a thorn in their heel. But in the reality is they're not going to go above partisanship at all. And so you got that going on. Also, keep in mind, we told you last night we had Congressman Jonathan Jackson on the show. And so the funeral plans of Reverend Jackson have been released. They're still affirming up. So we're still waiting to get the details of when he's going to lie in state at the South Carolina Capitol and what's going to be happening here in Washington, D.C. He will be lying in state at Rainbow Push in Chicago on Friday, February 27th. And then, of course, the following week, March 4th, March 5th. Then on March 6th, you're going to have the People's Celebration taking place at the House of Hope in Chicago. That's where all of the dignitaries and the main speakers, former presidents, are going to be. And on March 7th, there's going to be a private funeral taking place at Rainbow Push as well. So that's what's going on there. And so do we have Matt, Michael, and Winkuni back? Okay. So Winkuni, so we got you there. Just want to get your thoughts on the Republicans not granting Democrats their request to have Reverend Jackson lie in honor at the U.S. Capitol.
Honestly, Roland, I think it's just another explanation of how how nonpartisan this House has become. It's really, really scary when you're pushing this hyper-partisanness to a level where people can't even respect people who have worked their entire career for equality in this country. And I think it's just another exemplification of the fact that the Republican Party is not the Republican Party that we've known it to be historically. I think now we've seen it turn into a party of white supremacists. And although some people may contest that that's what it was before, I think we used to see there was an era of a more moderate Republican. I think now what we're seeing in the Republican Party is a lot of people that are, uncloaked, as I would colloquially put it. And so they are really, really less of Republicans and more of people that are aligning in with this MAGA party. And so I think when we're thinking more so about the Republican of today's era, this doesn't actually surprise me, but it is a slap in the face to Jesse Jackson. It's a slap in the face to all of the things that he's accomplished over the years. It's a slap in the face to Black America. But quite frankly, I think that's exactly what it's intended as.
Well, of course it is. And so this is what we have long expected. Those things happen. We are, of course, waiting to connect with Ambassador Andrew Young at his home in Atlanta. So we're working on that as we speak. So let's do this here. Let's go to a break. When we come back, we hope to have Ambassador Andrew Young ready on the show to talk about his longtime friend, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., passed away at the age of 84 on Tuesday. Back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Rhea Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to the other side of change.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, a relationship that we have to have. We're often afraid of it and don't like to talk about it. That's right, we're talking about our relationship with money. And here's the thing, our relationship with money oftentimes determines whether we have it or not. Balancing your relationship with your pocketbook, that's next on A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, here at Black Star Network.
Hey y'all, welcome to the other side of change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Rhea Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to the other side of change.
Hey, I'm T.D. Jakes, and you are watching the Black Star Network.
Folks, still waiting to connect with Ambassador Andrew Young, but let's now hear from actor Glenn Turman and singer Yolanda Adams, who shared their thoughts on the passing of Reverend Jackson with us here at the Black Star Network.
Richard Roundtree, Shaft, had the coolest afro of the 60s and 70s. There was only one man who had a cooler afro than Richard Roundtree, and that was Reverend Jesse Jackson. He had style. Oh, he was cool. We'd watch him at different functions where he'd speak and captivate the audience, mesmerize them, and get them to understand the importance of the moment. All with great style But he had something else that I didn't realize until actually the 80s. I ran into him once again. We had been friends and had come across each other's paths several times, but this particular time I was on tour with a stage play going from state to state. And our paths was crossed because he was also crisscrossing the country, running for president of the United States. And it was then I realized how much courage Reverend Jackson had, because he would step on the elevator with these guys surrounding him, his bodyguards. And it was then that I realized, whoa, this man is serious. He understands the gravity of this moment, and yet he's stepping into it. Pure courage. Yeah, he stepped up. He stepped up big time. That's what we need now. Who will step up in these times? Who, like Reverend Jackson, without putting others down, without trying to appease or get likes. Who will step up? Who has the courage to fill this man's shoes? Reverend Jackson, he kept hope alive. I'm gonna miss you.
Hey everybody, it's Yolanda. Thank you, Roland, for this opportunity. I cannot, man, the last time I saw Dr. Jesse was at Sheila Jackson Lee's service. And they were moving everybody so quick and fast and everything. I didn't get a chance to give him a hug because I always, whenever I would see him, I would always give him a hug. We go back so far, many, many moons ago in the, late 80s, early 90s, when I would come to Chicago and he would come to the concerts, and then he invited us to different functions like prayer breakfasts and things like that. And he became a really hardline supporter of everything that we did. Of course, he loved gospel music, loved music, period. I just, I knew as his health was fading, we wouldn't see him around and about as much. But I'm just grateful that the pain is gone, to the Jackson family, to all of the people who have been touched by his life, his legacy, his laughter, his corny jokes. I know I'm not the only one, because Dorinda and Lady Tremaine and Dr. Shirley Caesar, of course, Donnie and Kirk, I know they've sent you videos and stuff, but this one is a tough one, because we all love and appreciate Dr. Jesse Jackson. So y'all be blessed, and let's continue the fight, okay? Because we won't be satisfied until everyone is treated equally and with the same amount of love all over the world. All right? Thanks.
Folks, Pennsylvania State Senator Vincent Hughes also shared his reflections.
Hey, everybody. As you know, we've lost one of the giants of American history, of international history. The Reverend Jesse Jackson just made his transition. Obviously, our thoughts and prayers and condolences go out to his family. And we want to make sure that we're embracing them through this very difficult time. You can never be prepared for a moment like this. There's a lot that can be said about Reverend Jackson. Reverend Jackson had a very close relationship with the city of Philadelphia and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. He spoke on the floor of the House of Representatives to the entire body when he was a very young man, before he made his runs for president of the United States. He is an individual that didn't watch history being made, from the work he did with Dr. King all the way up to present day. He didn't just watch history being made, he made so much history. As I said, from watching the Voting Rights Act getting signed into law to, in fact, standing there in Chicago as Barack Obama walked across the stage, having won the election for president in November of 2008. Reverend Jackson was clearly fundamental in all of those spaces, in all of that time, making history, not just watching it. And there's so much more to be discussed about Reverend Jackson, but it's a lesson for all of us that we should not stand on the sidelines, that we should always be engaged in the, if you will, the passion and the action of our times. Don't let someone else write the history. You write the history. You create your story. You fight for the justice that we all deserve to live in. In fact, maybe the best testimony, the best way we can salute his work is to make sure that everybody is registered to vote, that everybody is speaking truth to power, and that we're not just registered to vote, that in fact we go ahead and vote. We go ahead and vote. You want to send a tribute to Reverend Jackson? That's probably the best one that you can send. Thank you, Rev. Thank you so very much for having such an impact on so many, including me.
All right, folks, I want to give Win Cooney and Michael opportunity to share their thoughts on the passing of Reverend Jackson's life and legacy. Win Cooney, you first.
Yeah, I think, growing up as a young person, everybody always heard of Jesse Jackson and his illustrious presidential runs. It was so inspiring that a man could just rise up, and really throw his hat in the ring to be the commander-in-chief of this nation. And I think at that time in life, that was a position that was still held in the highest reverence, right? And I think what Jesse Jackson did was solidified the notion that we could be in those spaces. And he championed that, even though he didn't win that election. I think he won in the hearts and minds of many Americans, and really opened the door for people like Barack Obama to later run and successfully win the campaign for president. Not only that, but Jesse Jackson acted as a mentor to so many different civil rights leaders and champions, and particularly at this time in American history where we see a dearth in leadership, I think we really look through the Reverend Jacksons of the past to see, who our future leadership will be. I think we need more courage, as some of the previous speakers might have mentioned, is we need to be courageous in this time, and who will take up the mantle where our greats and our champions have fallen. And so I think this is a time of pause and reflection within the African American community to really think about Jesse Jackson's legacy, the legacy he left, and the legacy that's to come. And it's not just his children that are mourning a champion and a giant, but the Black community and Black America as a whole. And I think we need to challenge ourselves with the question of who will be the next Jesse Jacksons, the next Malcolm X's, who will be the champions of this new era and this new generation, because it's really pivotal that we identify those in order to move forward in these really challenging and perilous times.
Michael.
Yeah, this is a big loss, and I'm a little older than Wayne Cooney. So I remember when I was a kid growing up in the 1970s, I had an afro as well. And, we grew up with Muhammad Ali. We grew up with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I remember seeing Reverend Jesse Jackson on Sesame Street. Now, I may have not been when it originally aired, but I was a kid and, I was watching Sesame Street. We saw him then. I remember hearing him talked about on the TV show Good Times, because I remember when all those episodes of Good Times, most of them originally aired. And, he was the bridge between the assassination of Dr. King and then going into the 1980s. I remember seeing him on the TV show A Different World. Okay, I remember when that originally aired, seeing that. I remember 1984, 1988 when he ran for president. That was something huge for us, and even the Nation of Islam with telling Black people to vote for Jesse Jackson. So this is a huge loss. And also, Roland, I had the pleasure of interviewing Reverend Jesse Jackson when one of the times I guest hosted your nationally syndicated radio show as well. So that was an experience. But something that people don't talk about a lot is that it was around 1981, that Coca-Cola economic boycott, which built upon what he did with Operation Breadbasket in Chicago. And that was one of the most successful economic boycotts African Americans have had since the Montgomery bus boycott. And a lot of people don't talk about that. It was about a month long. I remember seeing stories about it on like ABC News and things like this in early 1980s. And it was about a month long economic boycott. We stopped buying Coca-Cola. And it led to Coca-Cola bottling distributorships for African Americans, more jobs for them, things of this nature. So that was one of the most successful economic boycotts we've had, and you don't see a lot of that coming from civil rights organizations now. He did that, I think, if I remember correctly, that was Operation Push. Because he started Operation Push when he left SCLC and Operation Breadbasket. So this is a huge loss, and I echo Glenn Turman about who's going to fill his shoes. It'll probably be a collective that does it, a collective organization, but we need to really study Jesse Jackson. You don't have to agree with everything he said or did, because I had some disagreements with him, but this is somebody powerful to learn from. And then after the 1988, even though he lost in 1988, didn't get the nomination, he was able to get the Democratic the Democratic Party to change and go to the proportional vote. And that helped
go from winner take all, go from winner take all to proportional. Absolutely.
Yes. Exactly.
I got to go to a break. I got to go to a break. Let me thank Michael McCooney for sharing your thoughts. I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Let's go to a quick break. Hopefully we can sort out the technical issues with Ambassador Andrew Young. If not, we'll come back with my interview with Reverend Jesse Jackson leading up to MLK 50 in 2018, which commemorated the assassination of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On that Lorraine Motel balcony in Memphis, Tennessee. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Rhea Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
I'm Ryan Wilson, CEO and co-founder of The Gathering Spot, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, we've been having some internet issues, some connectivity issues in the show. We're going to reschedule Ambassador Andrew Young for next week, and same thing, Bishop William Barber is in a really bad place where he is, and so we'll do that the same. We're going to, of course, be paying tribute to Reverend Jackson all the way up through the funeral. And so in 2018, we gathered in Memphis to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I went to New York City a couple months before that to sit down and talk to Reverend Jackson about his work with Dr. King, and here is that conversation.
This on February 1st for the Samuel DeWitt Proctor Conference, and that was the anniversary of Echo Jones and Robert Weaver, the two Memphis sanitation workers who were killed. And it was very interesting being
February 1st, right?
February 1st. It was very interesting being there and how every year when we talk about the assassination of Dr. King, people forget why he was in Memphis. And so many people don't even know those names.
You know, he was organizing the Poor People's Campaign. He argued that, he said, we won the boycott in Montgomery. We can ride public facilities now. We're no longer humiliated with what he called barbarism. We won the battle of Birmingham. We now achieved the right to vote.
Certainly appreciate you joining us on today's show. If you missed any of our coverage this week of the passing of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., please go to our YouTube channel or go to Black Star Network app. Check it all out. We'll have more things we'll be covering this weekend as well. All right, folks. Don't forget, support the work that we do. Please join our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. It comes out the floor at 19 cents a month, 13 cents a day. You support this show. You support the Breakdown with Brittany Noble. You support the Other Side of Change. You support the numerous shows that we have on the network. And so we greatly appreciate it. If you want to use Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right.
68. At his church with a wise man, Appalachian, with whom we'd never worked. He just talked about them, just put them together. Native Americans from the reservations, some Latino Americans, some of the Southwest group, some of Chavez group, some Jewish allies from New York, our Lowensteins, peace activists, and some blacks from Deep South. And then we met trying to figure out how to march to Washington, have a job and income. He said, come by bus, by train, but come. And forced the country to shift from healing in Vietnam to healing at home. He said, because bombs dropped in Vietnam, which closed down cities. So while in that kind of mood, because these two workers have been killed in Memphis, Jim Lawson called, and said, what you talk about, to make it concrete, it's in Memphis. You have sanitation workers who work, they're working, but they work every day. And they're seen as just garbage men. They clean away the germ. They too want to dream one day when they can see their child graduate from college as well. So everything about Memphis was compelling to Dr. King's emotion and our plan to address working poor people. And so those two killings on February 1st was significant as Jesse Jackson being killed, triggering the march. And
Caesar Milan, how to add years to your dog's life. Sardines.
9.
Bone broth.
10.
Raw eggs blended with the shells.
9.
Turmeric.
7, if you can get your...
In Selma, 1965.
You talked about that meeting in January 68. I mean, the period from April 4th, 67, giving that speech beyond Vietnam in Riverside Church, to him being assassinated 1 year to the day. Just the pain, the difficulty that he was facing.
Well, he got pain from Black Americans. You know, the month before he was killed, about 55% of the negative among African Americans. The civil rights leaders taking positions against him. I mean, the church had closed the pulpits to him during that season. I mean, Klansmen and Miles, I'm with you, Mike, but I'm not with this guy called him Mike. I mean, the newspaper editorials, they say he's a good guy. He convinced blacks, not too whites, when they've been bombing him. He says, I was speaking, I will be heard. He felt the pain of rejection. So 55% of blacks said no to Dr. King. 70% of whites said no to him. After he was killed, everybody loved him. They rejected the marcher in verse of March. That's why I was so bitter for a while, because I knew what the talk was in front of his face, sitting behind his back. He's off course. He's off course. He's killed. He's our kind of guy. And that's why I said we love martyrs. We can quote their poetry, but not marchers who demand of us to act and to make something happen. And so I remember he was going into the small towns. He would come to a place like Chicago, churches half full. So I developed the idea of, if I can get 50 markets, 20 churches in each market, 1,000 churches, if they convene their churches for a Dr. King rally, with the pressures, but not the churches full, we had to figure out ways to market in different kinds of ways. But Roland, I think maybe the most graphic way is the weekend before we went to Memphis. I had to be around March 30th, I suppose. He called on Friday night about 9. He said, I want you guys to meet me tomorrow morning. I didn't want to go. We had a breadbasket meeting the next day. It was up and moving. He had been there 2 weeks before. Bevel said, we went to Chicago. Bevel was tired of being in Chicago. We said, I think T.Y. may have been in Cincinnati or something. So thought we'd be there. So the kind of wrap up, had to call about an hour later and said, look, Martin is challenging us to come together. And Rap always played that kind of heavy role, but he was kind of, he did the rock. He was the rock, so we said we'd be there. So Bill and I, we got on O'Hare Airport. Doc out there, we just missed our plane. 7 o'clock. I said, I know y'all gonna miss it. I get you on the 740. I know y'all gonna miss that plane. So we got the thing. And we got to Atlanta. It was about 10 of us. It was Bevel and Roseanne T.L. Rogers and the Young, and about 10 of us, Dorothy Cotton. He said, it's been a tough week for me. He said, I've been with Rev and his wife Juanita all week, brother, and his wife Jean. And I've been had migraine headaches. Thought about quitting. Maybe I've done as much as I can do. I've been on this 13 years. We won Montgomery, won Birmingham, won. He said, but now I'm at the end of the war. I cannot, I'm a Nobel Peace Prize winner. I can't propagate my sense of justice. Killing in Vietnam and healing at home. Killing in Vietnam and prospering at home. He said, I can't do that. He said, maybe I should just become president of the White House. I should rather do speeches, make money, and write books. But if I quit, if I turn around, I'm Andy said, Doc, don't talk that way. He said, Andy, be quiet. Don't say peace, peace, never is no peace. Let me finish talking. It's kind of Jeremiah. They don't say peace, peace, never is no peace. And when he said, be quiet, we listened. He said, but I can't turn around because Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, who never gave up, they wouldn't accept me. I can't go back. So maybe I thought, if I would fast to the point of death. So there's a disunity in our movement. He said that as Stokely and Rapp, we're friends. We disagree on some strategy. And Jim Farmer and Paul McKissick and Roy Wilkins and with the Young. So because we're friendly, they come at my bedside with hold on before I would die. We could regroup right there. Things were very solemn. They said, we can turn the minus surplus, we can go on to Memphis and deal with those workers and lift them up. Win that battle, go on to Washington. He just kind of talking about the depression. For some reason, I was taking notes. It was like the three moves of Jesus. Let this cup pass from me. As he prayed, disciples slept. Did not my will, but thine be done. He went to the same three moves. That was that Saturday morning before. When he got through, I remember Bevel said, Dr. King, we get to Washington. If we get to Washington, the White House is already against us. What's the hook? I don't understand. So I blurted out, Dr. King, we get there, what's the hook? We were insensitive, right? The pain he was in, agonizing, plus all the stuff you don't know the leaders are thinking about in the first place. You know what else was on his mind. So he said, I don't know what the hook. I said, Doc, suppose we had the 50 cities. At that time, GM was the largest company in the country. We took a line of cars, Cadillac, Chevrolet, whatever. We said we were not going to buy that line of cars. And the big GM would convene his fellow corporate, and they would meet the president. And said, well, we'll try it then. See you guys in a minute. He walked out the room. I left, went back to Chicago because where our family was. This Bevel and I did together. And he came to Atlanta, I think, that Tuesday. He got to Atlanta South. I'd been here a little earlier. The plane I was on, they had entered the plane. There were threats because Martin Luther King was on the plane. So I got off and nothing happened. And he came on in, then he saw the four of us, Jose Rapp and Dr. King on the balcony. He was just coming in from the airport at that time. And
that was March 3rd.
April.
I'm sorry, April 3rd. It was April 3rd.
I think that was April.
Right, it was the day before. Y'all on the balcony.
I think that April 2nd, I think.
Okay.
Because they were met with the ministers the next day.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about how to organize. Remember in this last week you talked about Jesse talking about Coca-Cola and Wonder Bread. That was in that speech. That had happened the day before.
Okay.
And he said on the 3rd, he said, well, after talking all day, he said, my dad is slick. I said, what happened, Pop? He said, Pop, country boy, didn't have no high school diploma. Came up out the city, So my grandfather sitting down in front of the church reading the Bible. And so he said, I want to join your church, Pop. He said, once Dad found that Grandpa had a daughter, so Dad was all in. And his mom was apparently in private school at that point. He said, so Dad messed around and he and my mama got married. And Dad revived his education, commitment to education. He said, and he kind of walked through his family tree. And his brother was born, his sister was born, and all that. Then he said, I don't feel like speaking tonight. I'm kind of dry. Jesse, you go. Doc, I've been speaking to ministers earlier that day. I shot my best shots. Doc, I don't have it. So you ought to do it. So they apparently asked Andy too, and they said, Ralph, you go. So Ralph suggested let's go together. So that's why Ralph ended up going together, because Ralph could always fill a spot in that way. So Ralph and I went to the church, and it was raining that night. At that time, Mason Temple had a 10-top roof. We got in the door, the side door of the church. People cheered. The church about half full. And they cheered. Ralph said, Jesse, you understand, they're not cheering for us. They think Martin behind us. They ain't think about it. So we went down the side of the church to the back of Mason Temple, back where Bishop Mason is entombed. We went to the telephone, down the telephone, said, Martin, you come, just let them see you. You don't have to do a lot of talking. So Al Harrison and Jesse and I both will talk. So Dr. King, we went back and told Dr. King was on the way. They cheered again. Ben Dukes was there, and Bishop Patterson was there. I remember that very distinctly. Dr. King walked in, they cheered. And so Ralph gave a rather long introduction. Trying to let him buy time. There's a picture of me trying to debrief Dr. into what I thought was happening. And what I thought was, he was already in his own zone. I'm just talking. She got me and said, the end of the time I could live, it should be now. He talked about when Aristotle lived, and Aristotle he started walking through Greek history and world history. But this is the time to be alive. And then at some point he shifted and said, but I'm not fearing any man. Now, in retrospect, there may have been in his mind threats on his life, which he would internally, we would never know. He was facing the threat of and or fear of death, because he always told us there's no defense against ambush and sabotage, so don't be afraid of death. He convinced us we could go to jail without fear, die without fear. We kind of that. He didn't share that. He said, but minister said, you guys, we can just share the pain. If the government workers heard that these big companies feel the pain, we went.
Redistribute the pain.
He said, "You're in the mountaintop. I've seen the promised land, and I may not get there, but we will get there, boy." He said, anyway, Roland, that men were crying, ministers were crying. It was like it was real, so authentic, so real, so genuine. And it could happen. It was going to happen. It was not going to happen, but it could happen. And so when he got through, we turned to me and we embraced. The next day, we stayed most of the day. I think the commandos came out for a while, and we talked about some of their issues. I had been branched down there in the group, Wayne Bennett group in Chicago, preparing to sing at the rally that night.
Right. He's upstairs on the balcony, and you're downstairs by the car with Ben Branch.
I was downstairs, coming across the courtyard. I was in the car. The guy was coming this way. We just left the carousel. And Dr. Jesse, we go into Billy's house. I set the dinner up at Billy's house and his wife. He said, and you don't even have on a tie. I said, Doc, prerequisite for eating is not a tie, it's an appetite. He said, you're crazy. We laughed about it. I said, but you're the one that's late. He was an hour late. And Ben spoke to him. He said, and he'd heard Ben pressures on the saxophone the week before, at the break vaccine 2 weeks before. And Ben said, I should play it. And he read it, Doc, pow. He said, Doc, pow. And somebody said, get low, because it was a hit. And we didn't know what the hit was going to be spring bullets. So I was on the ground, and the rap was in the room. I think Roland must have been downstairs. Billy Cowles was about so far, trying to go down the steps. And there's a picture of Andy, Billy Cowles, and someone just and they later pointing that way. And that pointing is that the bullet didn't come from that way, because it came from that way. So the police had their guns drawn. Go the way the bullet came from. The bullet came from that way. That's that picture. Mr. Withers, the photographer, he was there.
Ernest Withers.
And he scooped up a couple of jars of blood. Tried to give me one and Ralph one. I couldn't touch the blood. I remember Ralph coming back. My son, my brother been shot. I'm his dearest friend. Ralph, Martin, hold on. We need you to hold on. Martin, hold on. But I was gone at that point, you know. So I just got up and dragged myself off, and I was standing next door, the room next door. I called Mrs. King. She was in the bed. She said, "Jess, how you doing?" I said, "I'm doing this fine." I said, "Mrs. King, couldn't quite get my mouth together." I said, "I'm reading." I said, "Doc been shot, I think, in the shoulder." I knew better. I couldn't say what I had just seen. I want to check up in that way. I said, "But you should just go and see him if you can." She said, "I'll be there momentarily." She got up out the bed. And apparently, for 7, 8 minutes, someone called, the press, and said he was dead. Man, bedlam broke out. I mean, the fires around the country. But what excited me the most was, I think it was Reverend Joe Lyons said, "We can't let one bullet kill a movement." We with all the trauma of his death. I remember being in the room with Harry Belafonte and Sidney Fonte and Robert Kennedy, talking about what Dr. King meant to us. And doggone, we were in Washington, Robert Kennedy got killed. Boom, boom, back to back.
But go back. You call Coretta Scott King, and before that, he's laying there. Y'all surrounding him, and we received the photos of Ralph Abernathy kneeling next to him. Where are all of you mentally in that moment? Because, I mean, this is your leader. This is, I mean, you were just joking. You were talking about going to dinner.
Brains frozen. I mean, what do you do except somebody, I think Billy Collins got a sheet to cover his face. I think that somebody called the ambulance, 911, like, we're frozen. And the ambulance came rather quickly. It was too late. He was dead upon impact in my jet. Billy hit him with that and blew his heart out. And so I called BON in Chicago, because at that time, Don Canese was running the news in Rebels. My wife and children, and Red Bastard in Chicago, because we had a pretty substantial movement running by the time. And so I explained in the press game what happened. Jose and I was standing side by side. There's pictures of that press conference. And rather than go with them to the morgue, I flew back to Chicago because my family was there. All the rest of them lived in Atlanta. I lived in Chicago.
So you wanted to get back home immediately?
Get rid of my family and get ready to come back to Atlanta because of the funeral. Others who went to Atlanta stayed in Atlanta. I went back to Chicago to be with my family to organize them, frankly. And it was it was tough, it was painful, and yet it was the kind of numbness, the kind of adrenaline kicks, the kind of numbness of the brain. And I remember getting home by 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and 400 or 500 folk at the airport, lots of great passengers, Mrs. Loman, Jackie, and the children and all that. I went home and fell across the bed, took a nap, woke up, and Senator Percy was there. Said he's sorry about what happened last night. I got up and went down to City Hall in Chicago. And what upset me about that meeting was the same ministers and politicians who were against him. So out of Monday, April 2nd and 3rd, they were, well, how much I love Martin. I wanted to kick the table over. I mean, this is so.
And you didn't change clothes. You slept in those clothes. You go down to City Hall, and there's this outpouring of let's rename the street Martin Luther King Drive.
All that, I thought all that to be so hypocritical and symbolic. It had nothing to do with what we had lost. There was a $10 street sign for $1 billion profit. And so I went back to Atlanta, and Andy was in his blue jeans, and so was James Orange and Bevel and Reverend Abernathy. We more or less kept on what we had on 3 or 4 days. It was just kind of, we had the mule train. It was not a place for exactly suits and ties and 3-piece suits. If it's that kind of scene, you know. And I thought Abernathy was particularly good. He was doing the straight ministerial processing And I thought was traumatized by it in a big way. Double, I think I had a very clear head. I think I had a clear head. I don't know where I was really. And there was lots of pain.
Jim Lawson said that, first of all, he would have been on the balcony with and would have gone to dinner with y'all, but he said he promised his wife he would always do dinner with his family. He said that's why he wasn't there. So earlier in the day, that there was a court hearing, and he was involved in that, but he said he went home. But he said that in the aftermath, he went straight to work. He said we kept going. He said it wasn't until July or August, he said it was in July, when the grief hit him. He said literally between April 4th and May and June, he said, we had work to do.
That's why I kept trying to say when I said adrenaline, because if you're playing ball in the big game and your key guy gets hurt, you can't cancel the game. You can't forfeit the game. You got to suck it up. And in the name of the hurt player play, the name of the deal, you can't give the killers the satisfaction they stopped the movement. They were not successful in stopping us from marching. They were not successful in stopping us from the resurrection. They were not successful in stopping our drive to end the war and to end poverty. We kept moving, and we already had plans. Reverend Walter Fauntleroy was our key guy in Washington for the tent city, the resurrection between Lincoln Memorial and Washington Monument. And it seemed like it rained every day. And I remember one morning, Reverend Abernathy said, Jesse, I want you to be mayor of Resurrection City. That may convene to give everyone give instructions. The press was riding his back because he was saying a lot in Pitts Motel. As if Pitts was Four Seasons or something. It's a regular kind of neighborhood, black motel. And the press was just peeking at him. Because he didn't look, he was not modern, he was rap. And did one hell of a job, in my judgment, doing this season of work. And one morning, 2 people died of meningitis. Men that seemed to vacate the camp. Robert Kennedy dead, Dr. King dead, White House turned his back on the scene. I was looking at women's face and children for the most part. I didn't have nothing to give them, no bus fare, no food. I said, I read the book by Howard Thurman, Jesus and the Disinherited. He said, when you reduce your irreducible essence, when you stand naked against the world, you're still somebody. You still matter. So I said, I am somebody. They began to respond. I may be poor, maybe unwell, but I may be unskilled. That's where that came from, that moment. That's where that rally cry started right there at that time. We stayed there for a while longer, but we kept on marching. It hit me much later that year. I found myself refraining from going to Memphis for a long time. And I don't like to go to Memphis now. Matter of fact, I go because Memphis has a new meaning to me now. See, the king, to me, Atlanta was Bethlehem. It had nothing to do with Bethlehem where he was born. And Mason Temple really was Gethsemane, mountaintop. And the balcony was Calvary. In a certain way, I can understand about it going back to Atlanta, but he went to heaven from Memphis. It happens to be the place where the poor blacks of the Delta of Mississippi and Arkansas and poor whites of Appalachia meet at that Mississippi River. That's where he died. That's where he left us. And there's still a story to be told about when blacks from the Delta of Arkansas and Mississippi and who picked cotton and coal miners who dig coal for find common ground, there will be a New Jerusalem, so to speak. There's not to be said about Memphis as not as a place where he was killed, but as a resurrection site, because the resurrection does not take place far from the crucifixion. Memphis has lots of challenge, and there's a new kind of South now. You couldn't have had the Memphis Grizzlies behind the cotton curtain if we not been successful. Atlanta Falcons, Dallas Cowboys, you couldn't have had Toyota, Mississippi if we not been successful. We pulled down the cotton curtain, built a whole new world, a whole new South, which laid groundwork for many new things in America. So his blood fertilized the soil and created a whole new dynamic in American politics.
They expect 30 to 50,000 people to come to Memphis to commemorate his assassination. But what do you want? And in fact, they expect several former presidents to be there. I asked Trump at the White House when he met with the TV anchors, does he plan on attending? He said he thought so. If Trump is there, what do you want him to leave Memphis with? And what do you want the people to leave with? It's one thing to come there to commemorate, to remember his assassination. It's different to leave.
I don't think Trump has been to the statue on the mall. Trump's positions are so antithetical to Dr. King's vision, he may not be received well.
Should he come?
Well, it's his choice to make. I don't think he'll not be cheered. It's not like he'll be cheered. My concern is not that people come for the service, for the celebration, the commemoration. The 4 million blacks in the South are not registered, man. If we can register 2 million new blacks in the South, we change the South and change the country. In spite of all of the negative stuff that comes from the Trump season, we won New Jersey. Ain't got a black lieutenant governor. Virginia, one guy says he would Robert Lee and the Confederates, and the flag and the statue. The opposition, we won that, and 1 of every 5 votes was African American. We winning.
Go ahead.
We're going to Alabama. And Roy Moore and Trump shoot their best shot. We win 1 of every 3 blacks, African American. So that some of that energy must be turned into every high school senior, man, should come across the stage with a diploma in one hand and vote a card in the other.
In fact, there's a placard there. There's a placard.
One of my concerns, right down to the black belt. That's a case in point. All the high schools got black principals. You can convene those high school seniors as you would for prom or for graduation and register. And there's no George Wallace to stop you. There's no Bull Connor to stop it. Like, do it. You know, there's 250,000 blacks in Alabama unregistered, 600,000 in Georgia unregistered. This is the time for us to show our love for the Dr. King and the cause by fulfilling the dream with a full registration crusade drive.
That's why when I talk about the National Civil Rights Museum, I was there for the 40th, and when I visited, I saw this, and it has been just locked in my brain for the last 10 years. And the sign said, it was a young girl, and she said, "All I want for my 18th birthday is a voter registration card." I mean, out of everything in that museum, that's the one thing that is locked into my head.
Well, one thing we do in Chicago now, there's an election March 20th. The roads closed February 20th. We've gotten Illinois automatic voter registration. New York, Pennsylvania, and Michigan only have 1 day to vote. It's on Tuesday. Chicago, you have a month to vote. But there are 10,000 students in Chicago proper alone. We want to have all 10,000 high school students registered by February 20th. Then that's the suburban rank. There's the rest of the state. This to energize and unleash these youth the power of applied civics. All those in city colleges, concerned that they can't afford the additional books, vote for them. All those in college who want tuition lower, since student loans are greater than credit card debt. I mean, this is the time to fight, not just to commemorate, to look forward, not just to look backwards. And so I know there'll be huge crowds. There'll be those who are in the crowd marching who will not be registered. That's sickening.
I gave a speech at Georgia State yesterday, and I've said this in numerous speeches, that what troubles me is that every year, around Dr. King's birthday, around April 4th, people talk about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And I always say, first of all, he accepted the Nobel Peace Prize for the movement, and so it was Fannie Lou Hamer, Constance Baker Motley, Ella Baker. It was all of the folks who were working to make it happen. I said the trouble that I have is he has become what I call America's civil rights mascot. pull them out. Oh, Dr. King. And makes people smile. They play some speeches. They say, oh, how great he is. As opposed to what you said earlier. What did he stand for, fight for, and die for?
Because use that dollar, economic leverage, so we have Wall Street Project. Use that vote to affect the makeup of races. You put on 4 million votes across the South will go from red to blue. Because what we proved in Georgia, except it was nullified this time around, the votes were nullified, in Alabama and Virginia, the southern states, and we voted coalition with progressive whites, women, and workers. We're the new majority. You know, we got the right to vote in 1965. First 185 years to protect the right to vote. White women couldn't serve on juries, it unleashed that dimension. 18-year-olds couldn't vote. Those serving in Vietnam couldn't vote on college campus, couldn't vote bilingually. That's 3 million Korean Americans, for example. That post-Selma generation, that's what drove my campaigns in 84 and 80. That's what drove President Barack to the White House. The post-Selma voters and fighters. And so those who benefit from that struggle have no right to expect much and give little. I mean, and there are no more dogs barking and horses kicking and axes handles being swung by governments to stop us. And that requires really doing it. And to me, that's my way of saying thank you to Dr. King for his life and for his service.
Why did you stay on the path? He sent you to Chicago for breadbasket. Others went in different areas. Why did you say, no, I'm gonna stay right here? I could do other stuff. I'm gonna stay. I was talking to somebody earlier. They said, had Reverend gone to corporate America, he could have sold anything. Had he done any other area, oh, he could have easily been highly successful. Why'd you stay?
Well, because the struggle for economic justice is my ministry. It is my life. My assignment was to look at those stores in the community where we could not be checkout clerks. We couldn't be produce men. We couldn't pick up the garbage. Really, you know, you take a given chain of 10 stores. You get the letter of intent to pick up the garbage for 3 years. The letter of credit, you can get new trucks and sludge if you're on the trucks. We built the first chain store, national tea store, 47th County Met. We began to build a new urban paradigm. And breadbasket became such a hot item before he died. And that's why I mentioned in the last speech in Memphis, because I saw in it a way to fight for economic justice. But I saw the caucus as being the political caucus, Black caucus, politics, but then the capital of Wall Street. So now we're getting our share. You know, so the economic principles are different. If you spend more than you make and vote less than you can, that's suicide. You must spend less than you make and vote all that you can. That's the principle. There are a few companies that can survive our sustained economic withdrawal. And therefore, I went to the shareholders meeting at Hewlett-Packard, and they had said first in Silicon Valley that we should not leverage them because they could withstand it. And second, the position was that they didn't have to show the EO1 reports. So we bought shares of stock in 25 companies. That's as opposed to picking outside. We went to shareholders meeting, where you have Bloomberg and New York Times, New York Bureau in the back. So I said, 25% of our company stock is African American Latino. And none of them on our board. We can share about that much stock. We don't advertise to any of them. None in our C-suites. They said, wait, let's have a meeting. So we met, and I must say it was a very good meeting. Now there are 4 Blacks on the board of HP. Jim Bell's on the board at Twitter, Google. And on the board of Facebook now is Ken Chenault. On the board of Twitter is
Deborah Lee.
The chair who succeeded Bill Gates at
Microsoft. John Thompson.
John Thompson, Floridian, by the way. But by going to those meetings and leveraging our consumer strength and our capacity and gender coalition and imagery, that happened. So I find this to be fascinating ministry. I can see the evidence of our work. I see people working and being trained. We're trying to get 1,000 churches, take an empty Sunday school room and put 20 laptops and teach our children apps and codes and financial literacy and stock market game. There may be 1 million jobs right now for coders right now. And we cannot wait for Trump to train our children to do it. We can do it ourselves, and we must, and we can, and we will.
If he said, Reverend, how you doing? I appreciate what you've done. What would your response be?
Dr. King or Trump?
Dr. King. Trump not going to say that.
I said I never surrendered, I never stopped. When they said Dr. King killed in Chicago, he's still there. We never stop. Dr. King's workshop meets every day, mass meeting every week. We inspire and educate. From that platform, Al Washington spoke, Roland Barber spoke, Barack Obama spoke, Charlie Hayes spoke. From that platform, Mandela spoke, Free South Africa. From that platform, the Cuban Brother Reverend Home for President. From that platform, we've helped to change the world. His work in Chicago continues. Dr. King's workshop is functioning. His staff is still meeting right now. It's called Rainbow Push, but it's his staff.
Last question. Just lost Wyatt T. Walker.
Oh boy.
As I said, Clarence Jones out of the hospital. You look at Reverend Joseph Lowry. You look at these warriors getting up in age. But are you optimistic when you look at these young warriors?
I am.
They're fearless.
Yeah. One of them, of course, in that lineage of struggle is Reverend Al Sharpton. He's in that lineage of struggle. But what Al and I have basically done by continuing running the circuit, there's now doors open that were not open 50 years ago. Dr. King used to have to go to LA to the big civil rights rally, or Oakland, or Chicago, or Detroit, the big civil rights rally. Now you got kids 30 years old becoming city council people, and state reps, and congress people, and mayors, and comptrollers, and handling pension funds and investors. So many more doors open. So you might have all leaders as visible as the one that you had 1 or 2 running the circuit, but that's a far bigger crowd of witnesses now that's fighting back. And they're now currently in the education of what they want to be and become. We didn't have a John Rogers doing 401k 50 years ago. We didn't have Jim Reynolds and Chris Williams on Wall Street 50 years ago. We didn't have 400 like dealerships, car dealerships 50 years ago. We only had Al Johnson in 1967, 50 years ago. So I see a generation that be known that have another role to play, but they're playing that role. And in Chicago, right now, you see the dynamic. They produced Harold Washington. The same Chicago that laid that groundwork produced 3 senators, Cameron Brown, Rock and Roller Burris, produced 5 congressmen. It's produced 1 presidential candidate and 1 who succeeded as president. So the fertile soil that he cultivated in Detroit and Chicago is still bearing fruit. So he's still winning every day.
And with that winning, and with this progress we've been on, do you believe it was a mistake for so many African Americans to put so much faith in gaining political power and not really study where he was when he kept trying to say, even that last speech, economic power? Everything for me, when I look at 63 to 68, constant real economics.
The reason, see, we live in the political economy. Here's what I say on that. The reason why there was a certain breakthrough after 65, once we became mayor of Detroit, we could then begin to give out contracts, which is the business we didn't have. Once Harold became mayor, he began to redistribute pension funds and create the whole class of and Harold Washington and Kumian set the pace. Our mayor should in fact use that base. Jobs we never had before, economics. Contracts we never had before, economics. Lawyers that we never had before, economics. So it's a political economy, so that there's some relationship between, I think we should appreciate that both matter.
Mm-hmm. Both matter, and we have to have both, and it's not either or. It's and.
It's both and, because Roland, I'm rather convinced, even there you cannot have a small, you must see the nation through a door, not through a keyhole. You can have a small circle. What's cutting off urban money? When the big banks in Washington, in New York, redline where they invest, the insurance companies redline where they insure, we can't grow. Then you develop what I call the invisible hand of racism. That's why we're going to have mayors at the Wall Street Summit in New York, because our citizens are being cut off. You become the treasurer without a treasury, unless you leverage those insurance companies that want to do business with cities. Look at the EO1 reports. Those banks that want to do money with cities, look at the EO1 reports, and look at their primary and secondary procurement list. Part of what we're doing right now, mayors can do. You should not do business with City Hall unless you see the EO1 report, where they land, what their records are. Any mayor really can do that, they just will.
All right, folks, that is it for us. We certainly appreciate you joining us on today's show. If you missed any of our coverage this week of the passing Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., please go to our YouTube channel or go to Black Star Network app. Check it all out. We will have more things we'll be covering this weekend as well. All right, folks. Don't forget, support the work that we do. Please join our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. That comes out to $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. You support this show. You support The Breakdown with Brittany Noble. You support The Other Side of Change. You support the numerous shows that we have on the network. And so we greatly appreciate it. If you want to use Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here on the screen. It's also for credit cards. Checks and money order. Make it payable to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to download Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Samsung Smart TV. You want to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag? Please go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. T-shirt, hats, all that stuff. You can get it right there. And don't forget to support the black-owned companies on our site. All these companies we feature. When you buy these products, you also support this show as well. This is about the Black Collective. This is how we buy black. And so please go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Don't forget, download the app Fanbase and support that as well. And as I said, tomorrow, 61st commemoration of the assassination of Malcolm X. There's going to be a ceremony taking place at the former Audubon Ballroom. This is the Eventbrite. Check that out. And again, if you want to support the Shabazz family, the family of Malcolm X, the work that they're doing, their partnership with Actively Black. This is the X shirt I'm wearing here. So go get the products as well. And that's how you can support them. Folks, we always end the show with all of our donors, the 37,179 people who contributed to this show since we launched. And so, if you want to get your name on this list, all you got to do is give. All right, folks, that's it. Right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black Star Network. I'll see you on Monday. Holla!